Hey, what's going on, everybody? So I wanted to do a really quick follow-up video, and I wanted to ask the question, is it definitely over for T.I. and Tiny? You decide. By now, you've watched the first video I've done, and you've also seen all the other things that are out there in the media, and you should be able to form an opinion as of now and ask and answer the question, is it definitely over for T.I. and Tiny, right? Questions and comments below, or answer this question after the end of this video. Now, from my personal perspective, I think what they're doing here is that the Bill Cosby playbook is being run on T.I. and Tiny, right? So again, I said in the last video, I'm calling it the Bill Cosby playbook because Bill Cosby is memorable, but essentially it's a playbook where first they're dragging the issues through social media, and everyone has seen this happen. And they've come out in social media with Lisa Bloom, and they've come out with these allegations, and then Sabrina Peterson actually came out with additional allegations, and what she's doing is that she's building up testimony on social media, and she's having people come out and testify on social media that they've been abused by T.I. and Tiny, so on and so forth. So that seems to be the pattern, the same pattern that was run on Bill Cosby, the same pattern that was run on R. Kelly. And the thing of it is that T.I. was pretty much right. If you've seen one of my other videos, Time's Up for T.I. and Tiny. In that video, you'll hear T.I. basically call the play. T.I. knows exactly what's going to happen. He knows the play that's being run on him. And he basically says, what they do is they come out on social media and they say all these crazy things, and they try to get you to respond so they can then sue you for defamation of character. Well, he knows the play, and guess what? That's what they actually did. So they sued him for defamation of character, and Sabrina Patterson or Peterson, I keep saying her name wrong, I don't know why. Sabrina Peterson actually said, I haven't actually seen the lawsuit, but a lawsuit has been filed. And in that lawsuit, Sabrina Peterson allegedly says that T.I. was referring to her when he made that video. So therefore, she has a right to file this claim for defamation of character. Now, everyone knows that lawsuit is 100% BS, but it serves the purpose of keeping this in the media, and then they're hoping to go into court, get lucky, and have the judge uh, sustain the lawsuit, or they're hoping to get lucky to go into court and have the judge uphold the lawsuit and allow them to litigate the lawsuit. That's what they're hoping for. And once they litigate their lawsuit, they're going to try to dig up other things that they can use in, later on, against T.I. and Tiny. So dragging the person through social media, that's the first part or the first strategy in the Bill Cosby playbook. The second strategy is suing the person in court for defamation. That's where we are now. That's already happened. And we're waiting to see where that goes, whether or not that lawsuit is thrown out, or if it's going to be sustained in court. And then there's other litigation. And then they're going to try to get T.I. and Tiny on the record as he predicted. They're going to try to do that. The next stage is to get the authorities involved. Now, if you watched the last video in this series, you already know that they have a lawyer and they're trying to get the authorities to investigate. And once they get the authorities to investigate, they're going to try to get the authorities to file additional charges against T.I. and Tiny. And if they're able to do that, then that's going to basically be, oh, it's going to be over at that point, because T.I. and Tiny will be so busy running back and forth to court trying to defend themselves against the criminal charges by the police that they'll pretty much have to give up on all the civil charges against them. And that's why this strategy is so effective, because you end up in a situation where you're fighting in court against criminal charges, and then at the same token, what's going to happen the next stage after the criminal charges is filed, they're immediately going to file additional civil charges for abuse, assault, things of that nature. and they're also going to file other claims such as emotional distress. And Ti and Tiny will be in this situation where they have the criminal charges. They're going to be trying to fight those, and then on the same token, they'll have the civil charges filed against them. So probably and most likely, these civil charges will be filed in multiple jurisdictions. I can see a situation where they have a case in Atlanta. They'll have probably another case in, I don't know, probably Chicago or LA, or something like that. That's the strategy. So now you have this situation where have the criminal charges, and hopefully they don't have criminal charges filed against them in all different jurisdictions as well. But you'll have the criminal charges, and then you'll have these civil charges in different states. And this is going to do two things. It's going to wear you down, right? It's going to wear you down. It's going to deplete your resources because you're going to be so burned out from dealing with both the criminal and the civil charges, and you're going to have to hire lawyers in different places, because if they have a case against you in Atlanta, chances are the lawyer that you have will not be licensed to practice law in another state such as LA, Chicago, or all these other places, and they may have had these outings with other women, and so on and so forth. So having all these cases filed all over the globe basically puts them in a situation where they're going to be burned out mentally and emotionally, and they're going to be burned out in terms of financially. And the other thing that I notice is that if federal charges are filed, then we get into the situation where they start to seize assets, they start to lock up the funds of Ti and Tiny. So this is pretty damaging. So the curious thing about all this is that Ti and Tiny's lawyer actually reached out to Sabrina Peterson's lawyer, and he tried to make a deal. Now I don't know if that was actually strategy in an attempt to basically see what they actually have, because at this point no one really knows how solid the evidence is. All we know is that there's this currently there's this charge of defamation of character against Ti and Tiny, and that's all that's really on the table right now. But we know, based on how things were played against Bill Cosby and other celebrities like R. Kelly, we know that eventually criminal charges, or there's going to be an attempt to get criminal charges, and we know eventually there's going to be other civil charges for assault and abuse and things of that nature. So that's all we know. So that's what we know from now, and we know those things are coming. And the question just boils down to how Ti and Tiny is going to deal with this. We know that it's already messing with their money. They've already had several productions shut down. They've already refused to continue on with other projects, and most of this is being done by Ti and Tiny themselves, right? And they're in agreement with the other production companies to say, hey, you know what? We already know the deal. We know how this goes. We're just going to go ahead, and we ourselves are just going to shut everything down, right? But eventually that's going to deplete all their resources. Lawyers cost money. Going to court costs money. Trying to make deals with the witnesses costs money. We know that they reached out to Sabrina Peterson's lawyer, and they attempted to make some type of a deal. They refused that, right? Sabrina Peterson's lawyer refused that, as you saw in the first video, saying that we want them to come clean. We want them to essentially come out and admit the things that they've done, and we want the police to investigate. So essentially if the deal involves Ti and Tiny coming out clean and admitting what they've done and being held accountable for it, then they're all for it. So that's kind of a weird thing for me, right? So either that lawyer is just full of it, and he's just saying things like that to hype up the general public and to make the general public believe there's something that's actually there, or he actually believes what he's saying. And what he's saying is that he wants Ti and Tiny to go to jail, right? So you guys let me know what you think. Do you think that it's definitely over for Ti and Tiny? Me personally, I don't see a way out of this. I think at this point, Ti and Tiny just have to get lucky, and they have to get past the stage where the authorities don't file charges, or they have to get to the point where the authorities come out and say, hey, there's nothing here for us to investigate. And, the allegations against T.I. and Tiny are all false, or the allegations against T.I. and Tiny is not enough to incite charges. If they get to that stage and they get over that, then I think Ti and Tiny will be absolutely fine. But if the authorities file charges for abuse or misconduct and things of that nature, then I'm going to say it's over, because right after that, what's going to happen is that additional civil charges are going to be filed, and Ti and Tiny are going to be in a situation where they have to defend themselves against a civil suit, and they have to defend themselves against a criminal suit. And the trick to it is that the civil suit, again, just like the defamation of character civil suit, the additional civil suit will be done to not only get money, but if they actually show up to these civil suits and then they basically defend themselves, then the information that they give in the civil suits are going to be used to press charges against them criminally, right? So that's the tricky thing with all this, right? So they're more than likely going to have to, show up to these civil suits and say, hey, look, there's a criminal suit going on right now, and because of the criminal suit, we are unable to testify in the civil suit, because information in the civil suit may present challenges for the criminal allegations. And as you know, by the constitutional, and as you know, the Constitution has a protection that says, every individual has a right to not self-incriminate themselves, and we would likely incriminate ourselves in the civil suit. Now, as to what I personally believe, and I saw a couple of people talking about the first video I did and the creepy music and so on and so forth. Hey, I use that music to try to entertain and to hold people's attention. Me personally, I think this is 100% nonsense against Ti and Tiny. I believe, me personally, you don't have to believe this, everyone has a right to their own opinion. I just believe that T.I. and Tiny, they have wild parties and they like to enjoy themselves and they like to have fun. And, that's all it is. And because they're celebrities, they're powerful, they have money, they are like anyone else, they're going to have enemies. I'm not sure what happened between T.I. Tiny and Sabrina Peterson, but Sabrina Peterson is the linchpin behind this, in my opinion, right? In my opinion, I allege that Sabrina Peterson is the linchpin behind all this. She's the person that's driving this. She's going out on social media because and what I believe is that she's angry, she's bitter. She's going out on social media and she's trying to encourage people to jump on the bandwagon. Essentially, she's trying to find other people who don't like Ti and Tiny, or who've had dealings with Ti and Tiny, and they're not happy with whatever arrangement they had. And she's trying to encourage these people to come out and basically lie and say they were abused, right? So that's my opinion. I think this is 100% nonsense. However, I know, and and everybody else knows that that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that you had consent from the individuals you engaged in. It doesn't matter that all this stuff isn't true, and it doesn't matter what your relationship with people were before these allegations. The only thing that matters is your ability to convince a jury in court whether or not you're innocent. You're innocent, right? That's the only thing that matters. That's the only thing that matters. So unfortunately, even if they survive this, they are going to be, they're going to be damaged, right? They're going to take some serious damage from this. But again, all this depends, in my opinion, all this depends on the authorities' involvement. If the authorities don't file any charges, my personal opinion, they're good. Ti and Tiny can tell them all, go fly a kite, right? So that's basically it for this video. So let me know, do you think it's definitely over for Ti and Tiny? Do you think that they're actually guilty of all these claims? I want to hear from the public. I try to make these videos neutral, right? You know, of course, I support Ti and Tiny, but again, I don't want to chase people away. The purpose of my channel is to talk about law. So let me know what you think. Do you think Ti and Tiny are guilty? Tell us why you believe they're guilty. Do you think Ti and Tiny should go to jail? Tell us why you think they should go to jail. That's it for this video. Please like, share, and subscribe.